This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, week number 10, the National Football League. The Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, winners of 2 straight, trying to make it 3 in Jacksonville. And the Chargers coming off of a bye and looking to try to climb back into what is a wide open AFC. Look, that 6th and final spot in the AFC playoffs, it's up for grabs, man. You want it, you can go get it. And at 3-5 coming into this game, a win on the road versus Jacksonville could propel the Chargers back into the mix in the AFC wildcard. But as we've seen with this Chargers football team, they just don't know how to win close games. And it came back to bite them yet again in this game. We'll talk about that a little bit later on when we get to the Chargers. We're going to start with the Jags in this game. But before we do, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. I've got a number of social media platforms that will keep you abreast of what's going on here on this channel. There's YouTube, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Facebook. All of the links to those different social media platforms down below in the description, along with how you can donate to this channel via Patreon or PayPal. Both of the links that you see in front of you down in the description. I made a video on Patreon showing how you can get exclusive content, a power ranking show, Teed Up. There's also the Rookie Wall. There's also the List. All of those programs are available to you as exclusive content here on the Louie T Network through Patreon. The video for that, the link down in the description as well. So let's jump into this game quickly and talk about the Jaguars first, getting their 3rd straight win of the season, getting to 6-3, remaining on top of the AFC South division with this win, 20-17 over the Chargers in overtime. It was a rocky game for the Jaguars. A lot of mistakes on their part that allowed the Chargers to hang around, ultimately take the lead, then see them tie the game up, allow the Chargers to then take the lead yet again. They then tied it up going into overtime, and that was a process in itself before finally making a huge play in overtime to help secure the victory. I want to start with the immaturity of this team. And one of the things that might come back to bite this Jaguars team, if they don't correct it soon, is their immaturity. They are a team that hasn't been here before, obviously. Okay, we've got some veterans on this team that you hope can steer the young players in the right direction. But you've got some guys that haven't been here before. This is a young Jaguars team with a lot of talented football players that we've talked about numerous times before. But they haven't been in this position. They haven't been 3 games over 500 this late in the season. Hell, they've never been 3 games over 500. Normally, at this point of the season, they're trying to get their first win of the season. So this is a totally different season. This is a totally different mindset. And so you have to conduct yourself as such. You have to act like you've been here before. And late in the ball game, you're down 17-14, and you draw what seems like a personal foul, defensive receiver penalty on the opposition. Great. That's going to give you the football about 1st and 10 from about the 12-yard line or so after they mark off the yardage. Still over a minute and 40 left in the game, so plenty of time for you to win this game. Go get a touchdown. And Marquise Lee gets up and taunts and starts dancing in front of the defensive back that hit him, that drew the penalty flag. Well, they converse, and they say, you know what? That didn't seem like that bad of a hit. If he can get up and start dancing around, then he can't be hurt that bad. That can't be that big of a penalty. Let's pick up the flag. Oh, and since you want to dance in the man's face after the penalty, we're going to give you one instead. So now, not only did they take the penalty away, they're giving you a 15-yard penalty, putting your team in a bad position. Now, instead of being in chip shot field goal range and potentially in a position to take the lead, 21-17. Now you're not even in field goal range anymore. And now you're forcing Blake Bortles to feel like he needs to make a play. And we all know when Blake Bortles feels like he needs to make a play, bad things happen. And that's exactly what happened. And I want to go from there. And no, let me wrap this whole maturity thing up with Aaron Colvin in overtime. Okay, so A.J. Boye gets the huge pick, runs it all the way back down to the 2-yard line, let's call it. Maybe the 1, but let's call it the 2-yard line. You're in a position where all you need is a field goal, but a touchdown would be nice. One handoff to Fournette at this point probably gets you in the end zone. You win the game 23-17 in overtime. But instead, Aaron Colvin gets a taunting penalty after the play, and it backs you up from the 2 to the 17. Where's the psychological sense in that, player? You need to wash your face and get your mind right. These are the growing pains of a young football team. You gotta be smart. Don't be a retard. Gotta be smart in these situations. Do not. What if and you never know what can happen. So you're thinking to yourself, well, we're still at the 17. We're still in chip shot field goal range. Now, luckily enough for you, you're playing the Los Angeles Chargers, who don't know how to win. So they commit an offsides penalty or a delay of game penalty for barking out signals, trying to get the Jags to jump off sides, false start. So they get a 5-yard penalty of their own. They end up partially blocking Josh Lambo's field goal attempt in overtime. But because of that, if that kick had been 5 yards back further, I don't know if he makes it. But because of that stupid delay of game penalty, it went through the upright still after being partially blocked. Now think about that for a second. If you don't get the dumbass taunting penalty by Aaron Colvin, you're not even in a position where that even matters. Okay? You probably score a touchdown running the football in instead of kicking it from that far back. It's plays like that that can alter and change the course of your season. Guys have to be smart. Grow up. You're no longer the bottom feeders of this league. You're a good football team with a hell of a defense that has a chance to win the AFC South Division. Act like it. Okay? Act like it. Or else you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in wondering, what the hell did we do wrong? And you're going to have boneheaded plays like that that cost you ball games as the reason why. Now, let's get to Blake Bortles, because I actually thought for 3/4 of this game, Blake Bortles wasn't that bad. Now, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. And Blake, when he gets outside the pocket and uses his legs to extend plays, I think he actually does some really good things. But he has zero. This has always been my biggest gripe with Blake Bortles. Zero situational awareness. Okay, and this goes back to his rookie season. He's never had situational awareness. I remember a game last year against Baltimore in which he rolls out of the pocket. And this is a game in which I want to say they're down like 3. And they're moving the football and they're getting in the field goal range. They're right on the cusp of field goal range, I think. And he rolls outside the pocket. I mean, when I say rolls out, he rolled out about 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage and just stood there. No one was coming, stood there, posted up, tried to see if anybody got open. And he sees Terrell Suggs coming. And instead of him throwing the football out of bounds, he stands there and takes a sack. Not only do they not have any more timeouts, but he just lost 10 yards on the play. They end up losing the game. And I'm like, what are you doing, Blake? In this game, they have the football after that stupid Marquise Lee penalty. Backs him up 15 yards. It's 2nd and 25. But look, you're still within a couple of short to intermediate completions. Let's say you get 6 on 2nd and 25, and then you turn around and you get another 7 on 3rd and 19, and it's 4th and 12, but you're now at the 32-yard line. It's a 50-yard Josh Lambo field goal. He's already hit from like 53 in this game. You're in field goal range to tie the game up. Blake decides, I got to go win it. Okay, it's 2nd and 25. I got to go make a play. So what does he do? He airmails it right to 2 Charger defenders. It's picked off by Trey Boston. Luckily enough, and this is why not squandering second half timeouts are so big, because they had all 3 of their timeouts. With about 1 minute and 40 left, all 3 of your timeouts, you still got a shot to get the football back. With that defense, you're probably going to get the football back. And the Chargers made it easy on them. They gave up, waved the white flag. Hey, Chargers, you want to win the game? You got Phillip Rivers as your quarterback? How about you throw a pass on 3rd down? Who cares if they use all 3 of their timeouts? It's still 1 minute and 30 seconds left. They got plenty of time to get back in the field goal range. How about you go for the jugular? How about you go for the win? That's a concept. It's a novel idea, but it's one that you should entertain. Knowing that you don't do well in these situations, why not try and win the game on offense? Huh? Just a thought. I'm just saying, I'm just a professional football watcher. I don't know what I'm talking about. So they go ultra conservative, all right? So they decide they're going to run it 3 times. Great idea. Now they don't have any timeouts, but guess what? It's still $1:30 left. And you punt the football. They get it right around midfield. It wasn't the greatest punt in the world because your punter was just trying to get it off because it seemed like he thought that he was going to be rushed. So he kicks the football basically to midfield. They got great field position. They're right where they need to be in order to get a field goal. And what do? They move it right down the field, and they get right in the field goal range. And what does Blake Bortles do? Blake Bortles, and remember, he had already thrown 2 picks. He had thrown a pick before that when they were in. I forgot to mention that. He threw a pick before that, earlier in the 4th quarter, with let's call it 6 minutes left in the game, when they were in field goal range, or going to be in field goal range. He threw a pick then that killed that drive. Then he threw another one with 1 minute and 45 seconds left, let's call it. So Blake's already effed up twice. No situational awareness. They got the football at the, let's call it the Charger 21. Let's call it the 21. Let's call it, they were a little bit closer than that. Let's call it the Charger 18, okay? They have no more timeouts. Remember, they used all 3 of them after he threw the pick and the defense had to go out and get a stop. So then it's a situation where there's about, let's call it 13 seconds left on the clock. And you're in a situation where you're like, hey Blake, whatever you do not allow this football to be inbounds, period. Either you taking a shot to the end zone or you're throwing the football out of bounds. But don't you dare take a sack or dump it down to somebody inbounds. So in the first time he tried to dump it down to TJ Yeldon, there was 20 seconds left on the clock. Let's call it 20 seconds on the clock. Why? Luckily enough, TJ Yeldon's looking at him like, I'm not catching that shit. And it was a little too far for him. But TJ looked at it like, I'm not even trying to catch that. What are you doing? That's in bounds, bruh. I got a defender on my back. What are you thinking? So then he gets another opportunity. This time with 13 seconds. Hey, and I'm pretty sure the coach told him. Pretty sure Mike Mularkey told him. Hey. Or no, Doug Marrone, excuse me. Hey, Blake. It's either end zone or out of bounds. This clown rolls out of the pocket, is being heavily pursued by a Charger defender, and decides it's worth 2 yards to sprint to the sidelines to stop the clock. Has to jump so that the defender doesn't clip his ankles and he can get out of bounds with 6 seconds left. Where the hell is your brain? What are you doing? You already got out of the pocket. Launch that bad boy into the 8th row. Kick your field goal, go to overtime. If that guy gets his ankle and he falls down in bounds, they lose the game. God, he has no situational awareness. Oh, man. But luckily enough, he got out of bounds. Boy, I would have cussed his ass out if I was Doug Marrone. I would have cussed his ass slam out. But in any event, they get the field goal. They go to overtime. Rivers throws an ill-advised pass down the field. And it really was a 50-50 ball. But you're throwing to about a 165-pound receiver in Travis Benjamin, soaking wet. And you're asking him to wrestle the football away from A.J. Boye. Not happening. A.J. Boye took the football away from him, then raced down the sidelines. Great blocking, great return on the interception down to the 2-yard line. I talked about the Aaron Colvin boneheaded unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, but in any event, The Chargers partially blocked the field goal, still goes through the uprights. They win the game 20-17 in overtime. The defense was extraordinary. They forced a fumble after Blake Bortles threw the first pick that almost ended the game. They turn around and force a fumble of Aaron Eckler that allows them to get the football back. Then Blake throws another pick. And the defense had to come back on the field and get another stop to get the football back to the offense once again. So the defense did everything that we expect out of a top-notch defense like the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did everything they were supposed to do, and they got the ball back to the offense yet again in order to get this win. And they made the play in overtime to secure the victory. This defense is carrying this football team. I don't know how long they're going to be able to get away with these shenanigans because offensively, they didn't have any rhythm in this game. And then you lose Allen Hurns on a vicious hit to his knees late in this ball game. Don't know the extent of that injury. Hopefully he's okay, but it didn't look good. You got a bunch of no-name guys out there. Keelan Cole and Jadon Mickens made arguably the biggest catch of the game on a 3rd and 4 when he had to come in because of the hit to Allen Hurns, who had to crawl off the field because they didn't have any timeouts. And if they stopped the clock, they would have been a 10-second runoff, which they could ill afford at that time of the game. So Jadon Mickens comes in. He doesn't even know what to do. He's looking around like, what do I do? They snapped the ball. He's still looking for help. And he just runs a shallow crosser, and he ends up catching the damn football and running out of bounds for an 8-yard gain on 3rd and 4. The biggest play of the game to that point is made by Jadon Mickens. A guy didn't even know what the hell to do on the play. So they're hurting at receiver right now. Remember, they lost Allen Robinson for the season way back early in the season. And so they're struggling right now. They don't have a lot at receiver. And you look around that football team, it's Marquise Lee, it's Keelan Cole, and now Jadon Mickens is going to have to step up. I don't know what they're going to do at receiver. The run game wasn't all that impressive. It's been carrying them offensively. They didn't really want to play Fournette in this game. I don't know if this still was stemming from the whole last week suspension thing, not playing in the game or what may have you. But, I mean, they were rolling with other guys back there. And they also needed a fake punt to get them one of their touchdowns in this game. And like I said, they're mixing up the rotation. Yeldon is seeing more touches of the football in the backfield. Grant is seeing more touches in the backfield of the football. They're switching it up. And I don't know how they feel about Fournette right now. But in any event, it wasn't the prettiest, but it was gritty and it was a W. And that's all that matters, especially for this Jaguars team. It's usually not going to be pretty, but it's always going to be gritty and a dub when it comes to that defense. They get it done again in this game, 20-17, to extend the win streak to 3 games to get them to 6-3 and remain atop the AFC South. For the Chargers, quickly, another heartbreaking loss in a long season full of heartbreaking losses. I thought the nature in which they handled the end of the game cost them this game. You want to win this game or you want to play for a tie in this game? What are you trying to do? Because your defense obviously wanted to win. Trey Boston with 2 huge picks at the end of this game. The defense wanted to win. So they turned it over to your offense, who then turned it back over to Jacksonville. Then they turn it back over to your offense, who then promptly says, we're going to run it 3 times with no ability to get a first down. We're not even thinking about a first down. We're just thinking about running out the clock and making them use their timeouts. How about you throw on 3rd down? So what, they get left with a timeout? Who cares? Because guess what? If you complete a pass to Williams, if you complete a pass to Keenan Allen, if you complete another pass to Eckler out of the backfield, who killed the Jaguars in this game, you do that for a first down, you win. You take knees, you win. But that's all in the growing pains of a first-year head coach who just wants to be conservative. He's got to learn. I can't trust my team to find a way to win this game if I punt this football away. I can't count on my defense again, who has been bailing me out, but I can't count on them again to bail me out. In that situation, you've got to go for the jugular vein on 3rd down. You've got to go for it. So what if it's incomplete? You tell Phillip Rivers, if you're that concerned about making Jacksonville spend their final timeout, you tell Phillip Rivers, if you don't like what you see, take a sack, run around, and then slide. Or if you want to be that conscious about using the time, then throw a wide receiver screen, okay? But don't just run it 3 times into the back of your offensive lineman and say, all right, we're going to punt. You're asking to lose a football game. It wasn't a great offensive performance. Eckler was outstanding, but he did have a crucial fumble, a critical fumble at the end of the game. I don't know if something's still bothering, if his hamstring is still bothering him, him being Gordon, but he didn't get a lot of touches. They went more with Eckler in this game. And the fact that I keep mentioning the name Aaron Eckler, that's a problem in itself. Not that he's garbage, but he's not your best. But he was your best in this game. Every year I find myself amazed at these names that the Chargers throw at us every year, either via injuries or just because of the lack of talent. But in any event, you didn't get it done. The defense, look, hats off to the defense. They gave you a shot in this game. How many more interceptions you want them to create to put you in a position to win this game? And the fact that you fumbled on the first play after the interception, which didn't allow the Jaguars or force them to have to use their timeouts, put them in a position where they still had all 3 of their timeouts after Blake Bortles threw another interception. In any event, Jags get the win, 20-17 in overtime. Go to 6-3 on the season. Chargers drop to 3-6 on the season, and it just continues to be one of those years for the Los Angeles Chargers. They move locations. It's still the same team. They change head coaches. It's still the same team. They still don't know how to win in critical situations, and this was another example of that. Let's get to any comments that may be out there. We got 5 minutes, so we'll try to answer as many comments as we can. Buffalo Pregame says, I'm sorry, but the Chargers really should have won this game. They had so many chances at the end. I wanted the Jags to lose. They had every opportunity to win this game. They didn't want to win. Buffalo Pregame also says, do you think the Chargers will bring less energy to the Bills game next week after this loss? They are 3-6, probably won't get in the playoffs now. They weren't going to get in the playoffs anyway. Had they won this game, it would have gave them a better shot, obviously. I don't know if they bring less energy to the game or not. I mean, each game is its own entity. You don't worry about the Chargers. If you're the Bills, you worry about improving upon that lackluster performance you put forth in Week 10. You worry about, is Tyrod Taylor healthy enough to go in Week 11? That's what you need to be concerned about, not are the Chargers going to bring less energy to next week's game. You could care less about the energy they bring. You need to come with better energy than you came with in Week 10 if you want to beat them. Eduardo O'Neill says, do you think this Week 17 game versus Tennessee will be for the division and the other one gets a wild card spot? If we continue, it's hard to say now, but if I had to predict that, yes, I would say that is exactly the way I feel it's going to play out. The winner of that Week 17 matchup is going to win the division, and whoever doesn't win the division will already be, both teams at the time of that game will already be in the playoffs. They would have already clinched the playoff spot in my mind because the AFC is so weak. Both teams are getting in. It's just a matter of who's going to win the division and get the home playoff game. That's pretty much the conclusion that I've come to, because I think the 6th seed is wide open. It's anybody's 6th seed. Hell, the Raiders could come off the pace and still get the 6th seed in the AFC. It's that bad in the AFC. So, yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say that's the way it would go, Eduardo. He also says, which offense in the AFC and which one in the NFC would you like to see go up against this defense? I don't have any particular matchups that would fascinate me. The Jags are just good on defense, and I just enjoy watching them play defense. There isn't any electrifying offenses. I would have loved to have seen Deshaun Watson stay healthy and get against this team the second time. Because remember, the first game, he came in after halftime. It was his first NFL action in a real regular season game. He wasn't prepared. It wasn't what you were going to see the second time around. So I would have loved to have seen him and that high-powered Texans offense go against that Jaguars defense had he been healthy. And in the NFC, maybe the Eagles. Maybe the Eagles, Carson Wentz and that group and how well they're playing. I'd love to see his mobility and what he brings to the table to escape. He's not escaping against this Jaguars defense that's fast and furious. And they're going to lock up. I don't think the Eagles receivers are that good. They'd lock those receivers up, throw the key away. So I'd love to see the Eagles and, mobile quarterbacks with explosive offenses go against the Jags. PD Pablo says that's that Chargers shit. He said, this is probably the most frustrating loss for me as a Chargers fan and for the Chargers team in general. I've got the last loss before my hope is lost. But you've seen this loss before, though, PD. Like, this isn't new. This is what y'all do. You've just created different variations of the same way to lose. You can lose the game 17-16 on a missed field goal against the Dolphins in week 1. Or week 2. You can lose in week 1 to the Denver Broncos by missing a field goal that would have caused overtime. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same losses, just in a different way. You've seen these losses before. So I don't understand why they debilitate you or gut you any worse. You should expect this. If I'm a Chargers fan, if I was a Chargers fan, I would expect these. And when we actually pulled a close game out, I would be surprised. Not the other way around. Vincent Cole says, all I saw was the Blake Bortles and Marquise Lee did their best to make the Jags lose, but they still got the W. Yeah, that's pretty much what they tried to do. They tried to cost their team the game, and the defense said, we're not having any of it, okay? Go and win this effing game, please. So the Jags do have the defense to thank for that. BK Soldier 2010 says, D.D. Westbrook is coming back next game. Good luck with that, okay? You guys draft a lot of fragile little body receivers that get hurt often, and you're relying on these guys. It's tough to rely on these smallish 170-pound receivers to stay healthy in a physical game. But good luck with that. Stevie D says, this game was so sloppy offensively, it seemed like nobody wanted to win. Fun to watch. It was fun defensively, but it was very ugly offensively. You are spot on, Stevie D. Vincent Cole says, hey, Lou, what's your thoughts on Mike Williams so far? There's such a limited sample size. He had a couple of catches in this game, but he's missed so much time that it's going to be impossible for him to really create the amount of buzz nor generate the amount of production that you were hoping in his rookie season. You won't get real production out of him until next year. Maybe he'll come on late. If you remember the Miami Dolphins receiver Devontae Parker, how he came on late in his rookie season because he missed basically the entire season with injuries, missed all the camp, and so he wasn't healthy. It's a similar situation. Maybe he'll come on late in the season, give you hope for next year, or maybe you'll just have to wait till next year for him to really be a key contributor. But I don't really feel like you're going to get much out of him this season with the way that he's missed time. But in any event, that's going to do it for Chargers and Jags. Jags get the win 20-17 in overtime to extend their winning streak to 3 games, now at 6-3 on the season, tied with the Tennessee Titans atop the AFC South with the win. The Chargers, meanwhile, lose and drop to 3-6. Another heartbreaking loss and another heartbreaking season for this Chargers football team. You can change locations, you can change teams, you can change some of the players, some of the faces, but the fact remains the same. This team just doesn't know how to win close games. It's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown Coverage, but I'm not done. I've got plenty more games to break down in week number 10 in the National Football League. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I got plenty more games to break down. I got this thing covered for you. So don't you go anywhere. More Lockdown Coverage coming your way here in a second. I'll be right back. Stay tuned.